Meeting February 4th, 2020, 7 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Santiago. Commissioner Pepitone.
Here.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Here.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Here.
Commissioner Cooper.
Here.
This time I'd like to ask Pastor Tom Starker for some prayers and remain standing for the flag, please.
Good evening. In our book of wisdom found in the Old Testament, it says, "Where there is no guidance, a nation falls, but an abundance of counselors there is found safety." Let us pray. Precious Lord, we'd ask that you would give us guidance during this meeting, because your word has told us that a lack of guidance causes a nation and a city to fall, but victory is won through many advisors. Lord, let us not be misguided in this meeting so that we produce ineffective results. Lead us in discussions and in decisions that honor you and benefit the citizens of this great city. We pray that you direct the steps of all of us so that this meeting can reflect the best that you desire for everyone. We place you at the center of all of this. In your most precious name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, was advertised, posted, and made available to the public as required by statute. The municipal clerk is directed to include the statements in the minutes and of this meeting. City Clerk, are there any changes or to the agenda?
Yes, Vice Mayor, we had 3. We had the addition of a letter from Mayor Santiago concerning the Wheaton property. Number 2 is the addition of a resolution ratifying Council 18's contract. Item 3 was the addition of a resolution authorizing the execution of a purchase and sale agreement for 200 G Street, Block 260, Lot 1, an addition of language in the resolution which states, Item 2, so the Mayor and Commissioner of Public Affairs are hereby authorized to execute the attached purchase and sale agreement on behalf of the City of Millville. And Item 2, which is added, says Anthony DeSantis and his designees are hereby appointed as conditional redeveloper on the condition that Green and Birotech Holdings, LLC, and or Robert Feller will no longer be involved in the project. $5,000 escrow is paid, and the aforesaid purchase and sale agreement is fully executed.
Thank you, Clerk.
You're welcome.
I have a motion for bills, please.
Make a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Moving second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And the minutes, please.
Madam Clerk, I move to approve and dispense with the reading of the following minutes and to proceed with the regular order of business. January 21st, 2020, work session, regular session, closed session.
Second motion.
Moving second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And this time we'll have a presentation
Yep.
presented by Chief,
I
our
got
Chief,
to.
He's coming up right now.
Chief Lippincott.
Got 3 presentations.
Go ahead, Joe.
So earlier today at the department head meeting, it looked like it was a pretty brief agenda for the meeting tonight, so I was told I could have as much time as I wanted. So I'll take it. Great night tonight for the city of Millville and for the Millville Fire Department. One of the best parts of my job is when I get to give recognition to my staff for the outstanding jobs that they do every day. But sometimes they go above and beyond. So tonight we're going to honor some of them. But before I do that, I have an even greater pleasure to do, and that is to present some awards tonight to some ordinary citizens, some neighbors here in Millville who recently went out of their way to help another neighbor and really demonstrate some heroism. And it's the kind of thing that makes a community great, makes Millville great, and I really feel it deserves recognition. So at this time, I'd like Steve Staniak and Darrell Boatwright to please come up, residents of Megan Drive. what was going on tonight. But gentlemen, just stand there for a second. I just want to tell you a little bit about what these gentlemen did on January 15th of 2020. About a few minutes before 7 a.m., Millville Fire Department was dispatched for a report of a house fire on Megan Drive here in Millville. And I live about a mile from that location. I was still home getting ready for work. I responded right away based on the dispatch. Sounded like it was pretty serious. I arrived within a couple of minutes, and just in a few minutes from the first phone call to being dispatched to me arriving, the house was pretty much fully involved. A lot of fire. It was quickly moving fire. Apparatus arrived. Crews went to work, did what they needed to do. As we were cleaning up from the fire, I was approached, what turned out to be Darrell's wife, and said to me, my husband's kind of shy, really doesn't want any recognition, but I think he did a really great thing. So she proceeded to tell me some follow-up phone calls, found out that Steve also was involved, and this is what they did. Neighbors helping neighbors. Fire started, I believe, Steve, I think it was your son, the son who's here, saw the fire, getting ready for school, heading out to the bus stop. Told his dad, call goes to 911, some things transpire. Like I said, it was a quickly moving fire, and if you know anything about lightweight construction in new homes, that tends to be what happens. So quickly this fire escalates, and to cut right to it, Steve and Darrell went to the residence and entered the house while it was on fire, located the occupants who were trying to make their way out, escorted them out, got them outside, made sure they were safe, which is pretty tremendous thing. But then on top of that, when they asked, is there anyone still in there, who else was left but the family pet, locked in a crate? And these guys went back in and rescued the dog. And I guess it started to get a little crazy there, right? At that point? Yeah. And talking to Steve and describing it, smoke started to bank down. I've been in a few fires over the years myself. I know what that's like, and the visibility goes to zero. But they found the dog. I guess the dog was a little reluctant, so you had to. So they had to coax him out, but they got him out. But this is what community, what neighbors are about. This is what Millville's about. Very proud of these gentlemen tonight. Commissioner Pepitone and I would like to present each of them with a Civilian Heroism Award. And basically it says, awarded to Darrell Boatwright and obviously to Steve Staniak for your bravery and initiative in assisting in the rescue of a resident from a house fire, January 15th, 2020. And if you want to pass them around and show them, there's a picture that was taken about 5 minutes after the arrival of the first fire apparatus to the fire. And you can see how significant the fire was and what these gentlemen did. So if you would all join me, please, in a round of applause.
You guys can come up here. I want to say a couple words on behalf of the City Commission. We want to thank you for, a lot of times people watch and they don't get involved. The level of involvement that you guys took, actually putting your own lives in danger, I want to thank you on behalf of the city and the individuals who were saved. You're just outstanding individuals, and I'm so glad that you're part of our city, and I hope people learn from them to help get involved and get involved with their neighbors when there's a need. So once again, let's having a standing ovation and a round of applause for these individuals. If there's somebody wanting to take pictures and come up, they can come up now. Pictures?
Okay. Wait, there's more. So I mentioned that one of my highlights is to recognize my staff, and I want to do a little bit of that tonight too. and it's going to all tie in, I think, with what comes after that, which is a swearing in we're going to do. But a lot of big things happening in Millville, a lot of big things happening for the residents and for the fire department. But at this time, I'd like to call up all of my staff who, since August, have been participating in the EMS First Responder Quick Response Vehicle initiative that we've been doing. If they would please come up and stand up here for me. So, two staff were unable to be here tonight. That's firefighter Ryan Gandy and firefighter Tyler Van Leer. But we do have tonight here firefighter Patrick Wetstein, firefighter T. Fawcett, Captain Christine Tanetta, firefighter Tom Williams Jr., Captain John Wetstein, firefighter Steve Kohansky, and firefighter Tom Williams Sr. No relation, right? Oh, okay. So, what are they up here? What did they do? What's this all about? Well, as you know, we're taking under an initiative to start emergency medical service program under the fire department to run the ambulance service for the city. This has transpired over a long period of time. Back last summer, we noticed there were some concerns with EMS response in the city. Had a lot of meetings with the commissioners, and I have to say, very supportive. Gave me all the resources I needed and the encouragement to get things done. Through the course of these meetings, it was decided that the fire department should try to do something to help when there was a lack of response or a problem maybe with getting EMS out on certain calls. So some additional, again, with the support of the commissioners, they gave me some additional money for overtime, and we decided to start a quick response vehicle or first responder vehicle. We weren't able to put it on every day, but we staffed it whenever possible. I decided not to make it mandatory. This is outside the scope of what firefighters normally do in our department, so I asked my staff to volunteer for shifts, and this group stepped up and said, yes, we'll do it. They're all either certified New Jersey EMTs or they are New Jersey first responders or trained first responders, CPR, AED. So they staffed a unit, which is essentially one of our station vehicles with an AED, oxygen, first aid supplies, and they were going out on a radio call Rescue 30 and responding to calls throughout the city when there might have been a delay in an ambulance responding. So just since August, this group here responded to 291 medical calls for assistance. They were involved in at least 3 CPR incidents, too many oxygen administrations to count, assisting at motor vehicle crashes, cardiac emergencies, etc. One of the other things that they were very significant in doing and a role they had, if everyone's aware of the opioid crisis and overdoses, and the antidote is Narcan. Just in the brief time we've been operating, this group here had 16 Narcan administrations, most of them resulting in the revival of the person. So I wanted to make sure that they were recognized for going above and beyond, taking the extra shifts, working, they would finish a 24-hour shift, a lot of them, go home, take a break, come back and work another 6, 8-hour shift on the first responder unit. So I wanted to recognize them for the great job that they've done. And along with that, I have one additional recognition for all the great things that they did. I know at the last commission meeting we were unable to make this all happen at the same time because I had a couple other things I wanted to do tonight. But I know Millville Police Chief Farabella recognized 2 of his officers for their role in saving someone's life through the use of tourniquets. And I know he mentioned that it was a combined effort with the fire department. Firefighter Tom Williams Jr., he was the firefighter that was involved in that. So I want to make sure, along with the police officers, that he gets the recognition. Just to kind of briefly review that, Millville Police and the fire department and EMS were dispatched to a bleeding call. Without getting into a lot of the details, it was a gentleman with severe bleeding. Millville Police arrived first, applied a tourniquet. Tom Williams Jr. arrived. He's an EMT. He evaluated him. There was still bleeding. The tourniquet was working, but needed a little bit more. He applied another tourniquet. Then he actually did what we call a wound pack, where we packed hemostatic gauze into the wound. The patient was eventually transported to a trauma center, where I believe he received 6 pints of blood. That's how significant the bleeding was. We later learned from the trauma team at Cooper that they said the actions of the first responders most definitely saved his life. Otherwise, he probably would have bled to death before he ever reached the hospital. So I have a letter of commendation here. Paul T. Williams, Jr., medical assist, September 10th, 2019. Firefighter Williams responded to an EMS call for severe bleeding. On arrival, Williams assessed the patient, and along with officers from the Millville Police Department, he provided life-saving bleeding control, including the application of a tourniquet and wound packing. Firefighter Williams' quick thinking and actions directly resulted in the saving of this individual's life. Congratulations.
Again, we have individuals within both our police and fire department. They go way above the natural call. And I'm, on behalf of the commission, very grateful for the work that they do and the extra mile that they go. So once again, thank you. Another round of applause.
One more thing. Thank you, everyone. So, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of discussion this past year about EMS, emergency medical services in the city. I'm not going to rehash all that. The future is very bright. We hope to, within the next few months, continue to work towards having our own EMS under the city, under the fire department, operating, and it's going to be a great thing for the city. And so tonight we're going to be swearing in our chief emergency medical technician, who's going to be the person who will really be the lead. I've been doing a lot. My staff back here, a lot of them have been helping me quite a bit. We've been kind of sometimes fumbling in the dark, but we've been putting this together, working on budgets, buying ambulances, those type of things. But now we're going to bring on board someone who's an expert, who knows the system inside and out, because we don't want to have just any EMS system. We want to have a top line, a quality system that will provide the best possible care to our citizens. So 24 applications, we did interviews. Commissioner Pepitone, our business administrator, some of my staff, Pam Shapiro from Human Resources, we had an interview panel. Tough decision, a lot of good quality people, but we made our selection. And at this time, I'll say a little bit more about him, but I'd like to call up John Feltus. And if you don't know John Feltus, I don't know where you've been, but if you're a first responder, if you're someone in the fire and EMS world, I don't know, legend, or just old, or just old. We're old. I've known John for a really long time. John Feltus started in emergency medical services with the American Legion Rescue Squad, 1978. I know I followed a few years after that, 1981. John's been a paramedic for 30 years, life support paramedic, and during that time he's had various management positions, including an operations manager. He's a New Jersey EMT instructor. He currently also serves as a county EMS coordinator. I could go on and on. His resume, as the commissioner will attest to, was quite lengthy. Interviewed very well, very impressive. I know John's going to build a quality EMS system here in the city. And that last group that was up here, my firefighters, you taught every one of them, correct? You were their instructor. So good things are coming. I know John has his family here tonight, his wife Jeanette, and 5 children. John Jr., Kim, Mason, Mallory, and Jeremiah. Mother Joan is here. Sister Jackie. Did we miss anybody? Okay. So I know it's a proud moment for them. I know I'm excited. And you've heard enough of me talking, so this time I'll turn it over to the clerk for the oath of office.
All right, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of EMT Chief according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you.
To reiterate what the chief had said, the application process was lengthy. And one thing that I learned is all the applicants have EMS in their blood. I mean, all of them were so proud, eager to work and serve in this area. But by far, this man stood out. And I'm sure everyone who is at the interview panel all agreed unanimously that this was the best choice. One of the best things that I like the fact is we got him from Inspira. And with that, again, welcome on board. He's moving ahead. He's done many things. We're rolling right along. We're going to be looking to hire individuals soon, all under his leadership as well as the chief. We're excited about it, and we're giving the city what they asked for. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the commission for their support in this endeavor, and my new team back there. That will all work together as a good team. I'm part of a great team now, which is awesome for me, and I think this is a great opportunity for the community as a whole. Thank you.
One more thing, I didn't mention the individuals. These individuals have been our EMS people over the last few months, and I'm so grateful that you stepped up and took care of the citizens of this community. Thank you so much.
That's good. Yeah, let some of them go. Congratulations.
Nice job again. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you, bud.
Congratulations. What, to be a student?
Wonderful student. Thank you very much.
We give it a few minutes so they can clear out.
Yeah.
Everybody go.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Okay, we can get back to some business here. Public comments on agenda items only. Anyone wishing to comment on agenda item? Yes, sir. Please go to the microphone and state your name and your concern.
Hello, my name is Damian Lakuta. I live at 40 Thomasell Drive. I wanted to speak to agenda item 19.3, which is the ordinance accepting the dedication of Thomasell Drive and Surrey Avenue. I just wanted to make the commission aware that the detention basin that was a part of the construction project there has not functioned properly since the development was created. The majority of the homeowners that I know experience trouble with storm water, surface water runoff, and drainage on their property. So I'm not an expert on the way this process works, but I believe that by dedicating the street, it may release a maintenance bond that was posted, and part of that is the detention basin. And I just wanted to bring it to the commission's attention that that basin has not really worked properly. So I would recommend not releasing any money that is held in bond for the maintenance of that basin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else on agenda items only? Yes, sir.
Costigan, 55 Tomasello Drive. I basically have the same thing to say. Put it on hold. The developer's not formed a proper HOA, which was filed with the county in 2003. They haven't done anything since that time. There should have been homeowner members when 55% of the homes were built, and then transition up until the last home was sold. There was supposed to be no developer on the board. They're still in total control. I've asked for a series of 16 questions, which are things like how many board members are there, when was the election held, show minutes, notices to the members of the street, budgets, all these kind of questions. Nothing. So our only leverage is having the city hold them up for a period of time until we get the answers on those things. And I have more stuff, as I spoke to you earlier. And same way with the basin as well, is we are collecting water from Precker Drive, which is a totally another street, and that was incorporated into our basin. So I don't understand how that can be when we're paying for it. I gave a rough estimate of our taxes, based very conservative. We pay $400,000 plus in taxes for just our members, and now we got to do HOA fees, and the developers kind of ramming it down our throats. And they also gave us a letter threatening back from the time we first purchased our homes for back fees if we don't pay them now, and then they will hold an election. That's not what the bylaws say, anything like that. So I'm very disturbed by this whole thing. So we'll talk about it again, but I just wanted to publicly voice my opinion about this, and I have other stuff on here, but we'll get into that again later.
Thanks, Doug.
If I can comment on
Yes,
that.
please.
I understand there is a maintenance bond. My only concern is I think there was another project in the city, and there was never an HOA, if my memory serves me correctly, formed. And there were problems with the stormwater mitigation. It didn't work properly. And what happened was the DEP came down on the city and said, we don't care if they don't have an HOA. It's your problem. You fix it. And so we had to fix it. So I'm just letting you know that we can have liability under certain circumstances. I'm not certain that those are present here, but it is something to be concerned about, and it may be something we want to review with our engineer.
But there's no release of the maintenance bond
the
on the.
maintenance bond
It's
is
not
not
being
being
released.
That's a 2-year bond, I
Correct.
understand, but they did turn it over, and they've also did a quick deed or something like that, they call it, recently, and we now own it. And I'd also like to get the taxes reduced to zero, because it's non-usable land, and we're paying a couple $100, which isn't a lot, but it helps. So, get that to zero, and again, and then the basin is, I build these things. I've been doing it for 40 years. I do it on a commercial and industrial and municipal basis, not too much residential, huge basins. And if we have a problem, most developers go in there and correct it immediately. If you go on Google Maps and look at that basin, it's a swamp. I mean, it's been corrected. I got pictures in here of what they called complete. Nowhere's near complete. There was trees. There's still 2 trees in a neighbor's yard that broke over the top through the fence that they didn't pick up. I don't know why the neighbor isn't complaining. Some people don't want to be complainers, and I'm usually one of them. But, enough is enough for these guys. I talked to somebody at the county level. They said, oh, yeah, that's a developer that never finishes anything. So, and going forward, I know they have other projects in the works. And one of them's over by you, Vice Mayor. They left the trailer sitting over there for a decade, a construction trailer. Wasn't tied down, has broken windows. It's getting old.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Council, would you suggest this to be tabled? Or?
I think you may want to table that just so you can
Thank
touch
you.
base with the city engineer.
I think it's up to the commissioners if we can table this ordinance on the first reading. Would you kindly, I know you showed me the list, kindly make sure that, in fact, make sure the clerk has it. We will forward that off to our mayor in the engineering department, and we'll move on from there, Doug. Okay, guys? But
Thank you.
I'll see what the commissioners wish to do, if they wish to table this ordinance on first reading. Okay?
Madam Clerk, in order to read into the record as well, whereas Sherwood Forest Homes LLC has posted a maintenance bond in the amount of 15% of the performance bond, or $62,923 for a period of 2 years pursuant to City of Millville Ordinance section, that's read into the actual ordinance itself. So just to clarify, the 15% was the figure that was also cited.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioners. Angeline Broomhall, Millville. I just want to start out by saying, Mayor Santiago, I hope you feel better. And sincerely.
Yes. Thank you.
I do want to address the petitions and letters of letter from Mayor Santiago, and I'm hoping that we get some sort of explanation on that tonight. There is some serious charges in there of fraud. He mentions, fraudulent activity, and that I hope doesn't get just left at, here, read the letter, figure it out yourselves. And I also, the contract as well, it was all thrown on the agenda literally like at 4:30 or whatnot, so there's no contract attached to that. So I'm not sure. It was mentioned at the last meeting about a pilot, which, as you guys know, I'm highly opposed to. And not saying I'm for or against the project. I just would like to understand the details of the project. Thank you. Before I can support your decisions or not. I mean, I would like to know. There seems that there's some things in here that are interesting, but I don't know what they are because I haven't had the opportunity to research it, and very limited information has been released from the commission.
Yes, we will definitely look into it, and I know we are, and I would like to have the council address that for you and get a clarification.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and to begin with, I have in my hand the contract, and I can tell you this was negotiated and has been revised several times since going back to April of last year. But it is available for you to examine if you'd like to see it.
You can have it.
Oh, thank you.
She can have that. Yep.
As to the letter from the mayor, and this just happened yesterday, we had a communication from Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, which is a large environmental engineering company in the United States. They raised some concerns about a company known as Green Envirotech Holdings, LLC, which had been a proposed tenant at the site. And you'll notice that the resolution that appoints Mr. DeSantis as the conditional redeveloper provides that Green may not be involved at the site. They can't be involved in any way. So that is what the concern was, and that's how we're addressing it.
Thank you, Counselor. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Christina Pantelis Royer. I want to actually bring up Thomas L. Drive. Pareca Drive also needs to be looked at due to the when they built Tomasello, there was, to my knowledge, there was supposed to be something done about drainage and stuff like that. My parents own 16, I own 55. My parents' house did get flooded, and to our knowledge, the basement they've had a lot of issues because of the not work done not correctly. Right. So Pareca also needs to be looked at because of Tomasello. So
yeah, I think we were discussing that a few months ago in reference to drainage going over still on Pareca Drive. Is that where it's going?
Yeah, nothing has happened.
Okay, that will be part of it. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close that portion of it. Any old business?
There is no old business, Vice Mayor.
Petitions and letters?
Okay, we have correspondence received from the State of New Jersey Department of Transportation advising that the City of Millville has been selected to receive funding from the NJDOT's fiscal year 2020 Safe Streets to Transit program for Sharp Street sidewalk improvements in the amount of $210,000.
Vice Mayor, move to receive and file.
Second the motion.
Moved and second. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perrin?
Yes.
Commissioner Eudalovich?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Motion carries. We also have the 2020 New Jersey Motorsports Park event schedule.
Madam Clerk, I move to receive and file this correspondence.
Second the motion.
Moved and second. Are there any comments? If not, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perrin?
Yes.
Commissioner Eudalovich?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Motion carries. We also have a letter from Mayor Santiago urging the governing body to table the resolution authorizing the purchase of Wheaton property.
Madam Clerk, I move to receive and file this correspondence.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and second. Are there any comments? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perrin?
Yes.
Commissioner Edalavas?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Reports of the commissioners. Commissioner Cooper?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And from the Parks Department, for the last several weeks, we've had issues with the pavers downtown on High Street. We have removed many of those hazards, working on those pavers downtown. So between Sassafras Street and Buck Streets, to be more specific. Also in the last 2 weeks, we've visited all city-owned properties and removed trash and debris. That's a total of 21 properties. So I want to say kudos to my department for that. That was a lot of work getting rid of that trash and debris for 21 new properties. For the next 2 months, we'll be working on getting prepared for our spring season. And again, we'll be starting to cut grass. So with those 21 properties received in December, the department will continue cleaning up these properties, removing trash and debris, cutting the grass, boarding up houses, and repairing anything around those properties. Upcoming events. The annual Snowflake Plunge will take place Saturday, February 22nd, noon at Union Lake Park. Participation donation is $10. The money is donated to the Susan G. Komen and the Children's Hospital. Any takers? Any plungers? No plungers in the room. Oh, we got one.
Mary?
Mr. Carty's going to do it again. All right. Winter Photo Contest. We are currently accepting photos for our annual Winter Photo Contest. All the contestants' rules, please contact the Recreation Department. Also coming up, baseball and softball season is on its way. It is here. It's time to sign up. American Little League sign-ups will be held February 14th through the 21st and the 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the clubhouse on Sharp Street. Babe Ruth sign-ups will be held every Friday from 6 to 8 and every Saturday at 9 until noon. Now, March 21st at the Ware Avenue concession stand, you can sign up there as well. Last but not least, girls softball sign-ups will be held every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday from 9 to 12 during the month of February at the Rob Shannon Sports Complex. If you need any more information on that, contact the Recreation Department. And again, Holly City Walking Club every Tuesday and Thursday. And remember, if there's no school, there's no walking. And that is it from the Parks Department, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes, first of all, the biggest news we have in public safety is the EMS development. We're all excited about it. You saw the great work that the individuals from the fire department have been filling in for our EMS. Again, done a phenomenal job. The individual we chose to lead has been, I think, unanimously, even by the public who know Mr. Feltis, are really excited about it. We're moving ahead, and we're just excited about, hopefully, I think June 1st is the date that we're looking to have everything in place. So with that, I'm happy. I just want to talk about a Christmas gift that I received up here. My children see me here. They watch meetings from time to time, not really, but they see what goes on, and they wonder, and they say, what is your job really as a commissioner? And although I could tell them about things like what the police department's going on, the fire department, what we're trying to accomplish, I said, really, I says, if you're involved in politics, I says, your main job is to try to inspire people. I said, to inspire people to see what they may not see, take the information that you have, and the public doesn't and may not really understand what you're trying to do, but to try to inspire them to make things happen. And I'm sure you could probably recognize the picture in here. It is the Wheaton property. And my daughter made a saying on here. It says, aim to inspire. And I was really excited about that, that she had the insight to just pull that out of her head and put it on a painting. And I think it's appropriate to bring it tonight because I think we're going to make a move. I'm hoping that it's going to point Millville in the right direction. And through the inspiration of the commission and for the individuals here that are looking to develop the city and move us in a positive direction, I'm super excited. And with that, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Edalavas?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. In an effort to provide a recap of the January 21st work session and the discussion outlining and explaining a prospective shared services agreement for economic development with the CCIA and the City of Millville, I will reiterate the items on which the Department of Public Affairs aims to focus its growth during 2020 and 2021 through the potential two-year agreement that is presented through this evening's Resolution Item 1. The Shared Services Agreement is drafted to support the Planning Department, Engineering Departments, and related departments to assist city personnel in approaching economic development endeavors that attract new third-party entities, to increase ratables, and to provide options for UEZ loans and microloans for existing businesses seeking to expand. With the department's plan to transition economic development to in-house operations, recent developments that affected the city in 2019, including limitations in infrastructure that hindered prospective third-party entities from selecting the City of Millville as a location, were taken into account in designing a prospective agreement that will not only serve to support public affairs, but also technical assistance in pertinent departments. Understanding the economic implications of immediately seeking to fill a position in the City of Economic Development Director that is not feasible for the city's budget and could include a salary of more than $100,000 annually, the city aims to use a 2-year contract for the flat rate amount of $3,000 per month to cover the scope of services and also seek to fulfill the following goals. Number 1 being marketing, using CCIA's upcoming initiative to improve web resources and possible print materials. The city will be included in future meetings to learn the process and interact with prospective vendors with whom the city would contract directly to initiate improvements to economic development on the city's website. USEDA grants. Using evidence and data available from and provided by the CCIA, the city will seek to apply for available grants from USEDA that may assist with economic development and infrastructure upgrades as related to bolstering economic development opportunities. Technical assistance. The City of Millville will include the CCIA in internal meetings between planning, engineering, and related departments in order to prepare for and engage in interactions with third-party entities. The CCIA will utilize its respective departments to assist city personnel in developing functions as pertaining to economic development. UEZ loan and microloan programs. Through forming a loan review committee consisting of the CCIA, the city's Department of Revenue and Finance, and the city's Planning and Economic Development Department, the city will seek to establish a model for offering UEZ loans and microloans to new and existing businesses with an application and subsequent loan review committee to review applications. Special notes include the following. As outlined and specified by Jerry Velasquez, the CCIA must recuse itself from any development or redevelopment opportunities under its management. This shared services agreement may only apply to third-party entities. The shared services agreement will not only be accepted by the CCIA with a term of 2 years. The city shall request an exit clause that does not incur penalties or costs as per guidance of Jerry Velasquez. As per recommendation of the city administrator, the department will establish a monthly date and time for the CCIA and the City of Millville to meet and discuss items on an established agenda for discussion by the Planning Department, the Department of Revenue and Finance, and all related departments when necessary. Minutes and developments discussed during the meeting will subsequently be provided to all members of the Board of Commissioners. Taking into consideration feedback from the public during the 5:30 p.m. work session, the emphasis on ensuring that quantitative results should be evaluated on an annual basis to highlight whether increases to the city's ratables have been achieved through this shared service agreement was stated by 2 members of the public and was noted during the public discussion. Thank you to the commissioners and members of the public for participation in this discussion. In regard to the CDBG program, please note that Friday, February 7th, the applications will be released, followed by the mandatory meeting on February 20th for any grant applicants. The public hearing for needs assessment and applications are due by 4:00 p.m. on Friday, February 28th in the Planning Department. The first meeting of the committee and stakeholders in general for CDBG 5-year consolidated planning, as well as the analysis of impediments process, is March 4th. The times and the locations may be noted in the document center pertaining to the Planning Department and Community Development. Please note that the next meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment is scheduled for Thursday, February 6th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. in the Richard C. McCarthy Commission Chamber on the 4th floor of City Hall. The next meeting of the City of Millville Planning Board is scheduled for Monday, February 10th at 6:30 p.m. in the Commission Chamber on the 4th floor of City Hall. The recent draft of the zoning ordinance initiated to promote consistency with the master plan and land use element is currently under review by the Planning Board, as approved by the ordinance on first reading during the January 21st meeting of the Board of Commissioners. And with the conclusion of this report, Mr. Vice Mayor, progress.
Thank you, Commissioner. Under my report, I'll make it very simple. Budget time, we're working on it. I encourage, once again, each commissioner try to get in and discuss your budget. We'll tell you the good, the bad news, so that you have an idea exactly where we are as a commission. Marcy will set that up with her, please, and I'll be happy to work along with you. The mayor is absent this evening, but again, Tomasello people, make sure, I know the mayor would be interested in that, to see what he can do in the engineering department. So be sure that we get a copy of your concerns, okay? Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any ordinances under second reading?
Okay, there are no ordinances on second reading, Vice Mayor.
Ordinance under first reading.
All right, we have an ordinance approving and authorizing an application to the Cumberland County Roadway Department for the Millville Lightning Travel Baseball 10 and Under to hold a coin drop on April 18th and April 19th, 2020 at the intersections of Buckshootum and Cedarville Roads.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this ordinance on first reading with final consideration on February 18th after due publication as provided for by law.
Second the motion.
Any comments from the commissioners? If not, will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 43, Parks and Public Property, Article 7, Special Events on Public Lands, subsection 43-36, Definitions, amending definitions for alcoholic beverage vendors permit and definition for distribution area.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, I move for the adoption of this ordinance on first reading with final consideration on February 18th after due publication as provided for by law.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the commissioners? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. The next item is an ordinance accepting the dedication of streets known as Tomasello Drive and Surrey Avenue within the Sherwood Forest 3 major subdivision, Block 128, Lot 36, be accepted and dedicated for public use.
Mr. Vice Mayor and Madam Clerk, with advice from our City Council regarding the reinspection by our engineering department pertaining to the detention basin, I move to table ordinance on first reading, item 3, an ordinance accepting the dedication of streets known as Tomasello Drive and Surrey Avenue within the Sherwood Forest 3 major subdivision, Block 128, Lot 36, at this time.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to table the ordinance. Are there any further questions? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, this has been tabled. The next item is an ordinance accepting the dedication of streets known as Dumont Drive within the Sherwood Forest 3 major subdivision, Block 52, Lots 73 and 74, be accepted and dedicated for public use.
Madam Clerk, I also move for this item to be tabled upon the basis of the previous explanation pertaining to ordinance on first reading, item 3.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the commissioners? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, this also has been tabled.
Any consent agenda items?
Okay, so all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Board of Commissioners and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a governing body member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. So item 1 is a resolution authorizing water sewer termination on February 18, 2020, due to failure to comply with the utility ordinance pursuant to Section 56-18 of the Municipal Code. Item 2 is a resolution authorizing adjustments in the tax and utility records. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing special assessment of municipal liens for certain properties due to expenses incurred by the City of Millville relating to cut and clean, plus administrative fees in accordance with Chapter 11, Article 6 of the Municipal Code. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing special assessment of municipal liens for certain properties due to expenses incurred by the City of Millville relating to board and secure, plus administrative fees in accordance with Chapter 11, Article 1, subsection 11-6 of the Municipal Code. And item 5 is a resolution authorizing tax foreclosure list held by the city to be foreclosed by summary proceedings in rem as described by NJSA 54:5-104.29 to 54:5-104.71 as amended and pursuant to the rules of civil practice of the Superior Court of New Jersey.
Mr. Vice Mayor, Madam Clerk, I make a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the commissioners? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Resolutions?
Okay, so these are resolution authorizing a shared services agreement between the City of Millville and the Cumberland County Improvement Authority for Economic Development Services for a term of 2 years beginning January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021, in the amount not to exceed $36,000 per year.
Vice Mayor and Madam Clerk, with that, I have certification of availability of funds in the amount of $36,000 from Chief Financial Officer Marcella Shepard, and I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any comments? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of IT equipment and installation for the EMS building located at 708 Columbia Avenue from SHI International Corporation through the Omnia Partners, formerly National IPA, cooperative pricing system in the amount of $20,609.97.
Vice Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments?
There is a certification of funds that would be attached to this.
Any further comments? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 3 is a resolution amending Resolution Number 54-2020, adopted on January 21st, 2020, changing the vendor and purchase price for a 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe in the amount of $34,744.44 due to Hetrick Fleet Services' inability to fulfill the contract, and authorizing purchase of said vehicle from Gentilini Chevrolet LLC in the amount of $37,548.39.
Vice Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution. Oh, well,
Certification.
I want to explain something about that. Let me say right now, so people understand that this is a purchase of the vehicle that we were going to approve earlier in the previous meeting, but the vendor that we went to was out of these vehicles, so we had to go to another vendor that was state qualified to get the vehicle, and it's not a purchase of another vehicle, it's a replacement of the previous purchase.
Yes, and the additional cost is because they're doing additional lighting that the other company wasn't doing, which we would have done once we'd received it. So
Gotcha,
that's why
okay.
the cost.
And with that, I have a certification of funds from Chief Executive Officer Marcella Shepard in the amount of $37,548.39. And with that, I move to adopt the resolution.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is a resolution to approve ratification of Cumberland Council Number 18 contract from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2024.
Mr. Vice Mayor and Madam Clerk, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the commissioners? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a purchase and sale agreement for property known as 200 G Street between the City of Millville seller and Anthony DeSantis and his designees purchasers.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Happily second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, I do have a comment, and my comment is also to defer to our city solicitor for the rationale and including the additional language in response to findings presented through closed session in order to maintain attorney-client privilege. And through this contract negotiations phase, I'll defer at this time to City Solicitor Brock Russell to provide an explanation for the city's response through the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Right.
Counsel?
Do you want me to?
Yes, would you read it, please,
I would
Counsel?
just reiterate what I said earlier, and that is that the resolution has language in it, and it does, not only does this resolution approve the the purchase and sale agreement, but it also designates Mr. DeSantis as conditional redeveloper. And one of the conditions is that the firm that I referred to earlier not be associated with this project. And I think Mr. DeSantis was agreeable with that. And so this just makes clear that his appointment as conditional redeveloper is conditioned specifically on that.
Thank you, Counselor.
Also, in response to a meeting that had taken place at 2 p.m. yesterday afternoon, and one that had been followed up by the commissioners during a closed session with our attorney, Brock Russell, this provision was invented, in fact, and inserted into the resolution in order to protect the city and to protect it from that liability. In response to Ms. Broomhall's recommendation for a response, any other information that would be imparted would be, at this point, for the city and for the Board of Commissioners, a violation of attorney-client privilege throughout the contract negotiations phase. That's why deferring to Brock Russell in order to provide that comment. We have, from our legal counsel, that was the recommendation in how to proceed with this resolution specifically in naming a conditional redeveloper on those terms.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments?
There was another comment in regard to the pilot agreement, and I don't know, considering that as part of the purchase and sale agreement, there were several items that had been amended, and if we can also comment upon them, the pilot agreement is contingent upon whether the Board of Commissioners approves it. If it does not approve it, it is underwritten in the language that at that point the redeveloper would have the opportunity, and our city solicitor can correct me, would have the opportunity at that point to break from the agreement if a pilot was at that point initiated or sought after, was not approved, and then at that point the redeveloper chose to walk away. So that language was underwritten. There was other language regarding environmental issues that was not included. All of the other items that were added and amended into the purchase sale agreement, I would ask that our city solicitor outline those items so that the public can understand what the changes were, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think that's correct. The environmental provisions that are in the contract, they're very important because we all know that there's historic, serious environmental contamination on the property, and those provisions were not amended. The provision that you're talking about, and that is that it's actually a contingency, and that means that if the city does not approve a pilot agreement, the only remedy that the developer would have would be to cancel the agreement. So the city's not really agreeing that there would be a pilot, but the developer would have the right that if one is not approved, I mean, he might decide not to do it, but he would have the right at that point not to go ahead with the contract and not to go to closing and not to get title. It's a contingency. It's similar to a mortgage contingency on a house that you're purchasing, that if you don't get the mortgage, you have the right to cancel the agreement to get your money back.
Now, in addition, Mr. Solicitor, I know that I do have an email that concisely explains the items that were amended in the purchase sale agreement. It was an email that was sent at 7:05 p.m., and it just itemizes what the changes are. Would I be permitted to read that to the public so that they would be highlighted in terms of...
Yeah, I don't see any
the purchase and sale agreement is a public document. In regard to one of the items, Conchenzio DeSantis has been added as a purchaser along with Anthony DeSantis and Gary Perrott. This change has been made everywhere the purchaser is defined. Anywhere where the project is described as plastics recycling and or fuel oil reprocessing, it was added or such other industrial uses approved as permitted in the redevelopment plan, redevelopment agreement, or subsequently approved by the Millville Planning Board and Millville City Commission as permitted by the city's zoning ordinance or master plan. That was the second item to have been amended. The third item, in 6.1b, the language was removed that made the deal contingent upon receiving NJEDA GROW funding, as this program has expired. It now states that it is contingent upon him receiving, him being Anthony DeSantis and Millville Plastics, a pilot from the city for improvements on the property. It does not bind the city to granting a pilot, as legally an agreement of sale cannot do so. But if the pilot is not granted, it does give the redeveloper the choice not to close. In 6.2, the date whereby all conditions need to be met from May 1st to July 1st, 2020, ensures sufficient time to receive necessary approvals. In Section 10, the language to read that the risk of loss is with the city until closing. It was determined that that is the way that the language should be written, as to not bear the risk of loss for a property that is not owned yet. In Section 14, the closing date was at this point postponed to August 1st, 2020, since the date had been pushed in 6.2 to July 1st, 2020. And in Section 20, there was an address change for the developer's attorney. Those are the items itemized through this. It's important also to note that this conditional redevelopers agreement, at that point, if it is in any way not upheld by the redeveloper itself, at this point, the property would revert back to the city. And our city solicitor can actually provide explanation on that, or at least clarification. But my understanding as a commissioner is that if in any way this purchase and sale agreement is not upheld, or if the redevelopers agreement is not upheld by the interested party being Mr. DeSantis, Millville Plastics, that would revert back to the city with no liability and no further connections.
Well, that would be if only if he hasn't gone to closing. Once he goes to closing and he gets title, there's not going to be a reversion.
Thank you.
The question regarding the pilot is that the closing would not be, at that point, the pilot would have to be obtained prior to the closing in order for the person to have gone through it. Or would the pilot would take place after the fact once the land is owned?
I think the way the agreement is structured, he wants to get the approvals before he closes, including the pilot. And if he doesn't get that, then he's going to have to make a decision. Does he go ahead with closing without it, or does he cancel the agreement?
And now, customarily, I know that in each of the cases of a pilot that I have ever seen, or at least have ever voted upon, the land was held at that point by the landowner. So in the case of having the pilot cleared prior to purchase, are there instances of this having happened in the city?
Well, what happens is that when you have the redeveloper agreement, and that is signed by everyone, attached to that is a financial agreement, and the financial agreement is what contains the pilot. So that's, and a lot of times that's done at the very end because that's when the developer has to have all their financing in place, which isn't going to happen at this point. It's going to happen at the other end.
So I think that the question truly is that in terms of identifying this in the purchase and sale agreement, is this very uncharacteristic of one that the city would initiate with a purchase and sale agreement? I know that with Agriterra, there's been no item regarding a pilot program. That's something that can be discussed in initial talks. But in terms of looking at recent purchase and sale agreements, to bind the city through this agreement, if a pilot should not be granted, the redeveloper would break after the closing or before the closing. That's what I think that we need to establish for the public as well.
It's a contingency. So, there's going to be the end of the due diligence period, which is going to take place prior to closing. So, he's going to have to make a decision on that one way or another, because he may have to waive the contingency and take his chances on what the city does later.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an odd thing to have as a contingency, but that's what was requested, and so that's what's in the agreement.
If I can speak very honestly, I know that this is an item that this commission has revisited time and time again, and each time that there is a new development, we re-inspect it and we re-examine it. Based on my position as a commissioner and evaluating the situation, we have been in talks with Mr. DeSantis, and we've even had the instance of, even bringing back to when there was the bankruptcy settlement, or not the bankruptcy settlement, but in terms of the settlement with GGI, we know that there are many very, very, very strong ties. If the city were to break, we're looking at liability. If the city were to stay, we look at continuing as a conditional redeveloper. At this point, my assertion is that the city's only viable option is to place it once again in the responsibility of the redeveloper to deliver on those items. This is the purchase and sale agreement, but this is the contract that precedes the redevelopers agreement. The redevelopers agreement, the redevelopment plan, all of this is very much contingent on whether or not the planning board can even see this going before land use. It's also very contingent upon whether or not the redevelopers agreement within its execution will contain those details, whether the redeveloper will also uphold that end of the deal. In terms of the city, I feel that from understanding the public's concern for ratables and whether or not we can have redevelopment in fact take place in the city, this is the city's opportunity to once again place it in the hands of Mr. DeSantis, his legal counsel, and Millville Plastics LLC to find out if, in fact, this endeavor can take place. If this endeavor cannot take place, both the commissioners and the public will have a very, very apparent view of whether or not this redevelopment deal was, in fact, ever actually a viable opportunity. So while I may not express the same excitement and the same approach and enthusiasm that my fellow colleagues here on the Board of Commissioners also express, my concern is for the city of Millville understanding why we're making this decision, and also inspecting, I know that there had been made reference to the mayor's concerns and our city solicitor. I thank him once again because we've had many comments in the past of how Brock Russell is a wonderful city solicitor in terms of making sure that the city's provided all of the protection that we need. And once again, he's written in a provision to provide us with that protection and that security. So I thank you again, once again, for making sure that we have our bases covered. While I'm not approaching it with the same enthusiasm, I'm really approaching it from the standpoint that we need to place this back in the hands of Mr. DeSantis to allow him to prove himself a worthy redeveloper of that area. So with the conclusion of my statement, Mr. Vice Mayor, I believe we're ready for roll call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any comments from any of the commissioners? None? Well, this has been a long process, and there's just one more step that we have to go through. Again, economic development is the main key in the city. This project is a very large project. It's been ongoing for a number of years. We want to move forward with it, I hope, and get it into the planning board, and that's another long avenue for them to go. So that's where we are right now. Again, I want to thank Economic Development Department, Commissioner Uvaldes, for getting a lot of the homework done, and each commissioner who has looked into this, really appreciate it. And with that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
With gratitude and confidence in our city solicitor and our city administrator for guiding us through the process, yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, is there any new business?
We do. So, Commissioner Cooper, did you want to make a motion?
We have a motion to approve the following special event on public lands applications. 2020 Millville Wheels and Wings Air Show, sponsored by the Millville Army Airfield Museum, to be held on May 23rd and 24th, 2020, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Millville Airport.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to authorize a social affair permit on behalf of Rowan College of South Jersey for the following events to be held at the Arts and Innovation Center on the following dates and times: February 14th, 2020, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., February 21st, 2020, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam Clerk, I move to authorize the city clerk to advertise to receive bids for project known as North 9th Street Water Main Replacement on February 27th, 2020, 11 o'clock a.m., Richard C. McCarthy Commission Chamber, the 4th floor of City Hall.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the commissioners? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Madam Clerk, I move to authorize the city clerk to advertise to receive bids for project known as CY 2020 Water and Sewer Department Supplies on February 20th, 2020, 10 o'clock a.m., Richard C. McCarthy Commission Chamber, the 4th floor of City Hall.
Second the motion.
It's moved and seconded. Are there any comments? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pepitone.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent.
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, at this time, we'll have the public comment portion of our meeting. Please go to the microphone, state your name, and try to hold your comments to 5 minutes.
Mary Messick here of Millville. Last commission meeting, it was brought up about the feral cats. I know a lot of people are going to frown upon what I am going to suggest, but it's just a suggestion. Previous commissions adopted an ordinance on feral cats with an organization of friends and animals, which basically catch the cats, get them fixed, and then set them loose. That's not really all that needs to be done. We also need to hold people accountable. My solution or suggestion to this commission is perhaps maybe, since we've entered into a shared agreement plan, maybe we can use that shared agreement plan to find out if there's ways of getting grants, and if so, how can we apply for those grants? That would not only just help to sit there with the cost that it is for animal control to sit there and do this job, but also turn around and in results of it, make it to the point where we make the owners start taking accountability. This city has a rule. You must register your animal. If it's a dog, if it's not fixed, you pay $10. If it's fixed, you pay $8. That's for a dog, 6 months and up. Because the rule reads, wherever the animal receives its food and shelter, that becomes the owner, whether you really are its owner or not. But if that's the case, other cities, other municipalities have a registering thing. Start making the people register their animals, cats and all. Put it on a leash. That helps. I thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Angeline Broomhall, Millville. I'm not even going to address this particular thing because I haven't really had a chance to really look at it all, and there's a lot of information in here that we haven't discussed in any of the presentations or the endless discussions we've had about Millville Plastics. I want to address pilots. I don't care if it's Millville Plastics. I don't care if Walmart wants to build a super center downtown. I'm tired of it. And we know the proof is out there. Pilots don't work. They don't work. Research study after research study after research study shows that we, as taxpayers, lose. The residents who are struggling to put food on their table, to keep their gutters from falling off their houses, to keep shoes on their kids' feet, are paying for these companies to come in and sit there for 10 or 15 years and get free police and free fire and free EMS on my dime. It's not Millville Plastics that I'm opposed to. It's not the racetrack that I'm opposed to. It's pilots, because research has shown over and over and over and over again that companies that have pilots tend to hire less than companies that don't. Companies that have pilots don't stay open as long in business as companies who don't. This is research. This isn't just me making it up. To even put it and consider it in this is doomed for failure. Because if you give it to them, you give them the pilot, you're going to make this city mad. And you saw how much people came together in this city, the residents came together in this city and said, enough with the pilots. We have spoken. The residents of the city have spoken. No more pilots. No more free ride on the backs of people making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year trying to put shoes on their kids' feet. Some of these kids are going to school with no food in their stomachs. But I can't keep giving millions of dollars away to somebody who's proven, not Millville Plastics. It's not Millville Plastics. I'm saying this to any potential developer. I will fight you every time somebody considers coming here and asking for my money. My police services, my EMS services, my fire services, my streets and road services. I'm paying for that. I'm a real person. We are real people. It's not some random free ride, because you do get something for nothing. It's not like, well, if they weren't there, we're not going to get the money anyway. No, because we still have to provide those services. So I'm the one who has to pay for that. You're the ones who have to pay for that. So they are getting something for nothing. It's got to stop. We have to stop even keeping it as part of our vocabulary. It has to go away. It doesn't help. And it's not just me. Statistically speaking, pilots don't work. Please stop using it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Cindy Cook, Val Lane, Millville, New Jersey. I've just got a couple things to say, and of course I lost when I got up what was on my phone. First of all, Tuesday, January 28th, in our town, we did what's called the Point in Time Survey. It's a national survey of the homeless people throughout the entire nation. We do not have the results of that yet. When that information comes into us, I will make sure you get it. But we did have a successful night that night. We had quite a few of our homeless people that we had not encountered before that came from Vineland, decided to apply for their birth certificates and all, which is the very beginning of them being documented, which is the first step they need to in order to get their lives up. They can't do anything until they get those birth certificates and their photo ID and everything. So this was very important. We also had somebody come in that was able to walk some of our eligible individuals through the process of applying for housing. We have individuals that were veterans. We had individuals that are on Social Security or disability. They have now applied for housing. I know it's going to be a wait for them, but they have finally applied. By being there for Code Blue, we were there to help them through the process. The other thing that happened that it's happened now twice. We had an incident happen. I was home getting ready for bed. A message popped up. It was from the hospital. Was Code Blue open that night? Yes. I'm sorry. They were having an individual transported to us. He was being released from the hospital. This was at 10 o'clock at night. This individual was from another town. He was being transported to us. They had managed to find him some sweatpants and a sweatshirt. He came to us wearing, on a night when it was like 24 degrees out, he came to us. I got up, I went over there. He came to us, sweatpants and sweatshirt and hospital socks. He did not even have a pair of shoes on his feet. He did not have a jacket. He had nothing for in the morning if we released him from Code Blue to help him through that cold day. Luckily, because of our volunteers, because of our team, because of the community that donates things to us, we were able to provide for him. Downstairs in the basement of the church, we did have a coat for him. We did have a hoodie for him. We had a pair of brand new boots, size 10, to fit that gentleman. So I have to thank all the community for that, because if you hadn't given us these things, we would not have been able. That guy would have left our doorsteps with hospital socks on his feet. And it happened a second time. But luckily, that guy had shoes on. So this is why we have Code Blue on these cold nights. It is a matter of life and death to some people. That saying, we're all donations. We're 100% donations. We're all volunteers, all donations. Saturday, February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, we're doing a fundraiser over at Sidelines. It's called a beef and beer, but there's no beef. It will be all-you-can-eat sausage and peppers, stuffed shells, chicken tenders and wings, salad, soda, coffee, and tea. We're going to have a Chinese auction and a raffle. Tickets are $25. we're hoping that some of you will decide you want to come over and support us, because this is what your money pays for, instances like what happened that I just described. I have tickets, as does Jerry Schoen, Kathy D'Amico, Denise Arrigio, and Lorinda Jarvis. So if anybody ever wants any tickets, all you have to do is contact me on Facebook or any of these other individuals, and we will be happy to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, quick. I spoke with Mr. Cooper's earlier, and I believe the city owns the property behind the soccer fields. Somebody posted it actually recently. I walked through there and walked the dog and whatnot. There's people been dumping illegally back there now, all the way in the back. And on the weekends, there's out-of-state. There's actually like a moving van that brings motorcycles from Pennsylvania, and they unload in the soccer field parking lot. And they ride all, I rode all there through when I was a kid, just like the street that I live on. I live on was my close friend Nick Tomasello, sadly passed away. So we rode, and it's a little different time now. Lots of trash, so these out-of-staters are coming here. And also I advised that maybe a good idea was, I don't see too much of a street sweeper. I don't know if we have one. I recommend it follows the leaf collection plan, because we use like a buncher. When I was a kid, they used the vacuum, so it took everything. Now they leave a lot behind. So then the next rain, it takes it and it clogs the storm drain, hence some of the problems we have with drainage. So if the following day you use that street sweeper and follow it, you have a clean street, regardless of whether there was leaves there or not, and and blight invites blight. So without the clean streets, we got a problem. I work in a lot of cities, and I see the real bad ones, and we're starting to look a little rough around the edges. So, and also relating to my street, I don't know exactly where, but last night was an instance around 12:30 at night. Somebody's been shooting off guns, and I think it's along the Surrey maybe, and they're probably in that field or something. And I woke the dog up, and I lost another hour's sleep, and I get up at 4 o'clock. So. Yeah. And it's unsafe if anybody's, not too many people are walking around at night, and it was multiple guns. It lasted for a couple minutes only, but it's been happening quite frequently. So I don't know how you track that down, but, and then again, it's been posted back there, but there's nothing on the posts of if it's city property. I believe when you post something, you're supposed to declare who's the owner. Am I right? So if the city had done that, they should have posted city property to help keep people out. It's not really a major deterrent, but it does help. But again, a lot of dumping going on back there. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close this portion of the meeting. Comments from the commissioners? Mr. Cooper?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Just pertaining to the comment about the soccer field area, I have spoken with our solicitor about that, so about the trash and the unsafe environment. So I want to thank you for bringing that point back up and reiterating that. That's something I think we'll talk about, we'll further as we move forward. Cindy, is there there's the sock hop. You forgot to talk about the sock hop.
That's the following month.
Yeah. We want to sell that one out too. The sock hop's coming up as well, so I plan on attending that Code Blue fundraiser at Sidelines. I just want to talk about moving forward just for a moment. I think tonight we've had a great meeting. We've had a lot of conversation about economic development since day one in our commission. And I just want to say that economic growth is our commission and our community's function and focus. So over the past 2 years, I believe that we as commissioners have learned quite a bit about city government and how it works. And I think we've each had a tremendous education, especially as it refers to progressively moving forward in this Walsh form of government that is not as always as lucid to navigate and to provide the expedient service that our residents deserve. But we push forward. I believe I can speak for my fellow commissioners in stating that economic growth in our city is still at the forefront of our agendas, even as we collectively endeavor to instill creativity, efficiency, and effectiveness of our own prospective departments. And as we stay focused as a Commission on Economic Development, we want you as the citizens of Millville to understand that, yes, we have been elected to use our knowledge and our influence in projecting the city towards economic stimulation. But this will be hard to come by without your cooperation and your participation. And still we push forward. Onward and upward should collectively remain in our objectives as we seek new opportunities to grow our city and bring new business to support our tax base. And as you've heard, possible tax increases, don't forget we are working tirelessly to decrease the burden of all that and all of us may share. Please understand that as a city, it is not time for us to lose our standard of what we believe that will make our city amazing. There are projects that we have been working on that are very positive and uplifting, and you've heard some of them tonight, like a community center, the library, Code Blue, projects with Millville Development Corporation, Holly City Development Corporation, bringing back a viable and accountable EMS back to Millville, and a dog park in the spring, amongst other positive things that maybe I missed. But don't let anyone tell you that Millville is not on the move. So let this be a time where we continue to work together and dig in even more to solve our issues and to look towards our future, embracing the possibilities of a bright and shining future. And still, we move forward. I will leave you with the words of one of my great heroes, Martin Luther King, who once said, and I quote, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. But if you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward." Tonight, I think we established that. We will continue to move forward. And with that, Mr. Vice Mayor, moving forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Dalvis?
I believe Commissioner Pepito normally delivers his closing comment before I do, so I'll let Commissioner Pepito
I'll
go
yield
first.
to Mr. Pepito.
Thank you
There
so
go,
much.
Joe.
First of all, Cindy, thank you for being out there for individuals who, if it weren't for you and for those individuals involved in Code Blue, would have no one out there. You're a godsend. You and the individuals that you work with, I am so grateful that you are there to be there for the individuals, like I said, but who have no one. And please keep on keeping on. Mayor, you brought up the point about the feral cats. I thought for sure Betty was going to be here tonight, but I'm aware that she had called Officer Sills recently, and I think he already took three cats off her property already. You bring up an interesting point of some of the things that you had said about what we can do to address our cat problem. Gary Myers is also a big individual who's out there helping try to keep our cat population under control. What I'd like to do is maybe create a committee with maybe you and some other individuals who have interest in the area, because just spending money on it is not going to solve the problem. But maybe we could look for ideas like grants, reaching out to vets that may volunteer, looking for organizations that could help out with the situation. But just brainstorming, get together to say, how do we address this problem? Because we even looking to other communities who had similar situations and solve them. So with that, along with you, I'm going to reach out to Betty. I have to get her number because she wrote it on a paper and I don't quite have it. So if someone does have it, I'd like to get it from them and put a group of people together. Excuse me, to address this issue. It certainly is an issue. I like the idea that you had mentioned about causing people to register their cats. The other thing I want to say is, based on what Bruce was sharing, I think tonight was a good meeting, and a lot of times it takes a lot of dialogue that has to be shared to get to the point where we need to. I'm ecstatic about this new project, and I'm hoping that everything rolls as it should. And I think on the other side, we're all going to be grateful that we're establishing a new business that hopefully will bring many jobs, et cetera, to the area. And as Bruce had a quote, I want to use a quote. People say that I have ideas, and sometimes I don't look at the mechanics of getting there. But Bobby Kennedy said, some see things the way they are and ask why. And I think I'm a dreamer. And I could say I think I dream of things that never were and say why not. I think vision, inspiration are part of what's going to take our city forward, believing in others, working together. And with that, if we keep moving together, I think we're going to accomplish what we need to. With that, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. In response to Ms. Broomhall's feedback, and I'm very glad that you did share that with us regarding the pilot agreement. It's a very, very frank and honest approach to it in terms of making sure that your essential services are covered under that. Now, we've also seen, and I'm drawing all of this from all of the items presented through public session, we've noticed that in many public sessions, whether it was Millville Plastics LLC and their legal counsel, Mr. Magazoo, that there has been many claims made about the creation of the 300 jobs, as well as the ratables that will be brought into the city's tax base. I also appreciate that within this purchase and sale agreement, it does not bind the city in any way, shape, or form to mentioning a pilot agreement. Therefore, by the end of the agreement, when the closing is due to be done by August 1st and all of the approvals are to be met by July 1st, the city not only has the opportunity to decide if Mr. DeSantis chooses to walk away, that the city once again, with that binding agreement of the contract, has the opportunity to also part ways. So the way that I interpret this, and I'm glad that you mentioned your feedback, because in terms of the pilot agreement, we all want to know that the tax rateable base is being expanded by every new enterprise, third-party entity that enters the city of Millville. What I appreciate about this purchase and sale agreement, the reason why I voted yes, is that this actually creates a solid, concrete timetable for the city and the redeveloper to decide if this actually will be a viable option for redevelopment. And by the end of it, we know that we'll either walk away, we'll part ways, or it'll be one in which we do have a new business, a new corporation here in the city of Millville that could potentially provide jobs, which is truly the function of the redevelopment department, of which the public affairs department oversees. So in the 2 years that I've spent here in the city, I've made it my job to learn every part of land use elements, every part of planning board, how that impacts the zoning ordinance. So having had that be a part of my last 2 years, I understand now just how integral all of the approvals regarding a redevelopment plan will prove, in addition to how this all ties into the redevelopers agreement and the financial agreement, which was the basis for my decision here this evening. I made that decision based on my own evidence. I thank once again our city solicitor for always making sure that he provides those provisions to the city to create that security, our city administrator for helping facilitate the communication so that I can inquire into any new developments at any time of the day and find out what exactly they are and what's transpired. So I thank our professionals for always making sure that they're protecting the city of Millville. Furthermore, I would like to thank all of the recipients of the awards who are here this evening, presented by Chief Michael Lippincott. And with the conclusion of this statement, Vice Mayor, progress.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, make it short. I want to just thank the public for coming to these meetings. Sometimes we have some disagreements with each other, but I've always firmly believed we listen. Maybe we don't move in the direction you want to, but I, for one, definitely appreciate your comments and your concern with the city. We don't always have to disagree or agree on the issues, but don't stop coming. Let us know how you feel. We're not always right. We always look at things, and this commission is committed. We're really working hard. We have a great staff behind us, great administrator, clerk, CFO. Each department is working diligently. I think they all know the status financially that the city is in, with the work that has to be done, the projects that we have to move on, the commitment that we're going to make in public safety is paramount. Recreation department is moving full speed ahead. Our police department's moving full speed ahead. Can't say enough about the volunteers and what PAL is doing in this city. A major, major impact with our youth. if there's any project directly involved that's showing results, it's the POW group of volunteers, police department, out there every day with these young men and women. You have to be there to see the interaction with young people and members of our police department. You guys do us proud. We want you to know that. And Mr. Mayor, if you're listening, get well, please. We miss you. Again, Commissioners, thank you very much for everything. Yes?
Can I make one more comment? I want to thank Vice Mayor for running the meeting in an excellent manner. Professionally, you did a wonderful job. Thank you for filling in.
Hey, once you ride a horse, you don't
I want
forget
to
to ride
second
a
that. You
bicycle.
did a great job, Vice Mayor.
Thanks, folks. Motion for the meeting be adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.